would be May 10th, 11th, 10th. It's
May
Mother's
10th.
Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all mothers. All you mothers. Happy
Mothers.
Happy day. It's now episode 18. 18. I was mistaken last week. I said it was 16 and it was 17. Today it's 18. It's May 10th. Coronavirus is still enveloping everybody, but I think we're slowly starting to thaw because it's either die through starvation or die through coronavirus.
Yes. I'm just talking about Mother's Day. I find it infinitely interesting. It's always easy to celebrate Mother's Day. It's easy to buy cards for mom and stuff like that. But I always remember trying to find a card for my dad and stuff like that. Because dad was
On
never
Mother's
around.
Day?
No, actually, those were even harder to find. Those type of cards, a card for father on Mother's Day, but on Father's Day they never sell. See, we're talking about these side businesses. Like I was personally looking for cards that would say, "Hello, remember me." Things
For Father's Day.
Yeah, for Father's Day. But even for Father's Day on Mother's Day, which is probably a good concept. But yeah, it always was more difficult to find stuff for Father's Day that was apropos.
Yeah, it's interesting because you do, reflect on your relationships and all. My mother died, I hate to say it, I'm not too sure, like 3 years ago?
She was old, eh?
99. And,
But
I was just following the coronavirus outbreaks in Ottawa, and where she was, which is the Carlingwood Manor, they've had 39 deaths. 39 deaths of coronavirus, let alone cases.
I can't imagine, and especially a day like today, what it is to reach out to your loved one who is stuck in one of these homes and you can't come and visit her.
It's tough. I think I'm pretty lucky that my mom passed when she did. This certainly would. Well, who knows? My mom was a survivor, man. She'd probably get it and shuck it off. And
she would have forgot what it was. That's why she would have.
That's true.
Yeah, what? Yeah, she'd probably go golfing if she had
She'd be the last one crawling out of the home going, "What's going on? Where's lunch?"
Yeah, my mom's still alive. My mom's turning 90 this year, and my mom still lives in the house I grew up in. So my mom is not beholden to any sort of ironclad quarantine, but she stays at home or whatever. I was just there for 5 seconds.
Yes, Byron's very good to his mom.
unscrewing a can of something for her because she couldn't get her hands around it or whatever like that.
Well, it's so lucky that she has you. She only has 2 sons, and Byron's brother lives in Vancouver. So
Yes.
Byron is his mother's main contact.
Happily, yeah, it's all good.
At this age, I always find myself so disassociated with young life and young culture. I wonder how someone who's 90 feels. Like does she embrace the modern technology and all?
No, she doesn't. She's sort of set in her ways. She's into crossword puzzles, and I actually gave her my old computer, and it's not hooked up to the internet. She does not want the internet, but what she loves about it are a few computer games, which she says is good for her mind, and she's continually in her bedroom. She's got the TV on and she's got the computer on with what's the Chinese tile game?
Mahjong?
Yeah. She plays that, and she's got like a glass of wine and cheese, and she watches her TV and plays her.
Tell her if she goes online, she can bet with other ladies.
Yeah, I told her, but you asked me about her age, and so her age, she's very sort of set in her ways in a lot of things. You can only sort of introduce so many things. It took a while just to sort of get her to learn how to use a mouse properly and all those what we consider by second nature, something like that. But yeah, she's quite happy and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's funny how, again, when friends find each other and find a commonality, every time I hear you tell stories about your mother, she sounds a lot like my mother. It wasn't divorce, but my father died when I was 15, and she occupied the rest of her life with crosswords, solitaire, and the same thing, she'd have a computer, the old cathode ray monitor computer, 386 or whatever they were, and it had solitaire and a couple other games, and same thing, not to the internet, but she would play solitaire all day and have the news on. She loved news, current events.
Yeah.
But how similar they were,
That is interesting, yeah. I would say her quality of life, and especially with what's going on, that's really scared the crap out of her. Listening on the radio with people her age and where she's at. So,
you know, it's funny because if you think of the human situation over the 2 million years that we may have evolved, how many horrible deaths have been suffered by people along the way, torture, death, hunger, whatever. We look at today's society, man, oh man, I mean, your mom at 90 has a wonderful quality of life, you know, and what I realized when my mom was that old was she wasn't really going to get better, you know, things that happened were just going to be more degenerative, and but we can take solace in that our moms and our parents on Mom's Day, they do have a great quality of life in the big scheme of things.
Oh, absolutely, and I'd say my mom's doing pretty good for where she's at, stuff like that. My God, to be 90, eh? Especially with all this stuff going on, and
that's the other thing. I'm not sure. I mean, my family has always been very pragmatic. We grew up in a funeral home, so guess what? I don't want to live forever. You know, I don't want to be cryogenically frozen and all. You know, what's my religion is that everything's natural. You die, you might be reborn. I don't know. I mean, what becomes a person? What becomes a conscious soul? I mean, who knows? That's a whole other podcast in its own. But I believe there's something greater. I just don't know what it is. And
yeah, sometimes I go through my head about those type of issues, and I really don't go very far in my head. It just becomes too much and overwhelming to me to even start to postulate all the consequences of that. I hope for myself it's in my sleep when I go on to...
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if you could, you know, predetermine how it all happened? Yeah. I'd say, okay, I guess about... 90 sounds pretty good for me. Maybe it's a little pushing it a little much. I'd maybe set her at about 88, depending on my health and my cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
And then, it would be like, basically, I want, you know, have a nice dinner, be with my family, because they all have to live, you know, till I die, like one of your famous songs, someone to live till I die. Yeah. That's everybody's selfish that way.
I question I don't know what it's going to mean to me. I would hope that I would be productive up to my last day. That's what I hope. I don't really understand what sort of the point is.
I think you'll have to be, like any of us who consider ourselves creators.
Yeah, very much so.
What I've noticed with coronavirus, just to wrap this part of up, because we got to get back to the music.
Yeah, let's get back to more fun.
Yeah, more fun. But as a creator in these coronavirus times, I don't know, well, you always feel this way, but it tells me that when I'm told not to work, I go crazy by not doing things. You know, if someone said retire, I couldn't, because there's no such thing as retire.
Absolutely.
Retired
or what?
Well, I know friends that are excited about retiring because they're thinking, then I get to sit and, you know, diddle in their garden and stuff. But that's the one thing that's killing me right now is typically I'd be preparing for my summer of outside work. And right now, I there's none of that. I'm kind of going nuts. So thankfully we have this. It's a creative outlet. Byron's always had creative outlets. And there's a segue back to our album, The Alien, the Rabbit, and the Monkey. We're probably about 3/4 way through it, roughly.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to tag onto this.
Sorry.
I've enjoyed. I indulge in sort of this virus. I'm doing what I've always done, but I think creatively it's sort of allowed me. I question. I did something called Zip Zap and Z, which was the spoken word story that you had written, and I put it to music and stuff like that. And I don't know whether
we had Larry Stewart.
Yeah, we had Larry Stewart narrate it, and I don't know whether this specific time would have made me do it. I wanted something. I know during this just sort of craziness, I wanted to be involved in something really deep and sort of go into a fun rabbit hole. And I knew Zip Zap and Z was like full of monsters and stuff like that, so it was easy for me to go, during this time, this is what I want to be doing. I want to make something that's really fun to look at. And even now, I'm doing something that I'm just about to finish off for my niece Emily, and I don't have a title for the song, But the last few days I've been putting the video together, and it's just sort of a song, a positive song.
We alluded to that last week, so
yeah.
it's not finished yet.
And it's almost finished. I was hoping to get it done by this Sunday, but it looks like it'll be done this week at some point. But yeah, so I used the advantage of a song I was just sort of working on, and I just sort of parlayed it with, and it's just right now been sort of a very fun thing to indulge in during this specific time, and it's something, a song about hope, about things will get better. Gray skies turn cerulean. So, which is my favorite line right now, talking about T-shirts, gray skies turn cerulean. And it's such a hopeful message that things will get better. Yeah. As we both infect each other. So in my sort of subtle way, this is how I just sort of covet what's going on. And
well, I as well, I mean, because you've been mentioning over the episodes that one of your things you are challenged with is that it's always you. I think you like Zip Zap Z because it was somebody else sending you something and you went, it's already sort of set up for me to dick around on.
It was a different sort of, it was a different bunch of building blocks that were presented to me in a different way.
Creativity is creativity.
Yeah, and I just loved having that. It was exciting for me because I was using somebody else's voice and stuff like that. And sort of, this is, you asked me last week about doing this very sort of talk and stuff like that. And you've asked other musicians, really creative musicians in your life to do something similar. And some guys have told you, no, I don't want to, for their own various reasons. I don't want them to sound big or anything like that. But I appreciate looking back on these first two albums. And the thing that I really get about it, and it might be the major sort of disappointment to me about these first two albums, was my over exuberance of my voice and using my voice and using the studio to fuck with my voice, almost to the point where I don't like listening to it. It's just too much of me. And lately, so the song I'm working on now with Emily is me, and it's got Susie, and it's got that guy Milton that I had worked with. And he did some vocals in the background. So I've got this sort of multi-layered, three different vocalists, me and these two people. And so these first two albums, I hear a lot of me. So I'm really of the 67 Beatles Magical Mystery Tour where they were speeding the tape up, speeding the music down. No, I mean, I can hear it. I've
always told people that I know that both of us have looked at quite a lot of Beatles recordings and how they did it. John Lennon never liked the sound of his voice at the standard pitch.
I can hear the psychopathy in me just taking control of the thing, screwing with the time of especially the first album.
Yeah, the 38, because you had a little pitch button.
Just screwing with the pitch buttons, recording things like that, playing it back. I can hear it with this album. And I can just hear just the slobbery of just so much of me. This triple tracking of my voice, my main voice, or double tracking. This 65,000 voices on the background, stuff like that. It just becomes, listening to it now, I certainly don't do my vocals the way I used to. And the song I'm presently working on, I had to sing a couple of verses a few weeks ago, and the effect of me going through this with you, I said, I'm not trying to get that Mark Bolan sound in my voice. I don't want to get that high sort of John Lennon, Lucy in the Sky, that hello, goodbye sound, this
falsetto-y,
this alto-y thing. I've slowly discovered over the past 10 or 15 years that just sort of using sort of the lower registers of my voice seems to work out a lot better, especially if I have other people sort of doing the higher parts. And so I've been so excited about this present song because I've recognized what I think I sound a lot better doing. And vocally, when I play it back now, it just sounds like $1,000,000 to me because it's me actually using my voice proper without trying to sound like John Lennon at Abbey Road or something like that. Seriously, like I can hear myself those first times. So yeah, it's been a great thing for me to sort of confirm in my head that I was just a complete and utter fucking psychopath in the studio regarding my voice, and the time I spent screwing around with it.
It's a free forum.
Well, it's true, just screwing around with it and recording.
But you know, I just think you're so hypercritical of your younger self, because I think that any artist with a body of work will look back and go, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I love what I was doing, but God, I was so obsessed with this or that.
Yeah.
You had to grow to get to the point where you are now. You know, the way I can relate is, for years, I was so embarrassed. I'm not a great guitar player. I'm just a hack, but you know, I'm a kind of a guy who'll come up with little parts. That's my forte. But I remember playing in the bands going, yeah, this is different. I play my bar chords like completely different. I've told you, right? Where everybody plays them like that. I play that my last two fingers are switched around. And I was wondering why, you know, I can do some things easier than other people, but then some things that are easy for people are hard for me because I got to switch those two fingers again. And I was so embarrassed that, you know, that I just wouldn't let people see what I was doing half the time. And then it took me till I was in my 50s to go, fuck it. If anything, it makes me unique. Right. Like, yeah. Everybody else does it. That I do it a little different. So it causes my things to sound very much like me, which I don't think is very good. But it is unique. I mean, you embrace the uniqueness. So things you've done when you were younger that you might now hear and go, oh boy, you know, there are countless other people, I would think. And the whole reason this podcast will discover it and go, it was pretty cool. It was unique and different for sure. But thank God there's unique and different things.
I concur. It is a road to travel. It's just sort of the big nugget I get out of listening to these first two albums, and I think I've had a sense of it as I've continued. But just sort of, it just reaffirms to me, like it's been a big issue in my head the last few weeks. Just sort of my old vocals, and I knew what I was doing. And so you talk about the pathology of this. I used to remember when I used to work at a grocery store, so I'd be about 18, 19, and I would walk from my house to the grocery store. And then I hadn't started recording at home or anything like that, but I started thinking a lot about that's what I wanted to do as I walked to the grocery store and back to go to work. And I remember this one trip I took thinking, boy, and so I'm 18 and I'm thinking, this is before computers, before analog. I can't wait to start taking my vocals apart from verse to verse. If they had some machine that I could use. So I was already trying to comp things in my head before there was a computer. So I was already 17 or 18 thinking about it's the studio where I can come in.
And did you ever think of them splicing tape in a sense?
Sort of, but I was really, because I think I started to hear...
It wasn't the technology.
Yeah, in my head, the technology hadn't been invented, but I knew that I wanted to go into a place that allowed me to sort of move things around, possibly, to correct what I knew I could hear in my head. So yeah,
that's more a producer-engineer thing, where most bands back in the day were wanting to capture their best live performance. You know, Paul McCartney singing "Oh Darling." I want to capture that, the essence of that performance. But you were already into a Dr. Frankenstein thing. Very much so.
So very early on. So I'm just saying, just sort of predicated that it was always just sort of the way. And once I got in the studio and I was allowed, and nobody stopped me, I just went mental. To me, it just sounds mental.
What's interesting is when you look at a solo artist compared to a band, which, you know, I spent more time in, the dynamics of recording and selecting what you're going to do. I mean, the very nucleus of creativity. You know, come up with a part for this thing. You do that to me. Byron will send me 8 bars or something and say, come up with a part for this. And I know that it doesn't really matter what I play, because he's going to chop it all up into little bits and rearrange it and do weird things with it, which is awesome, because that's another form of creativity. But getting back to my point, solo artist band, like when we were recording in the studio, it was always for me in a band setting for my own output. Very much was all input from everybody else, because it's the band. This is how we want to represent this thing. So even though we'd all come up with our own individual parts, they were massaged by either the way someone else was playing to encourage you to do something they want.
Yeah.
But for you, it was always, what do you think is best? You would have me in the first album, John in the second album, and part of Coy. I guess Coy was kind of mishmash everybody and everything, but then became you as a producer. It's interesting to hear, to me, I guess in retrospect, how bands sound like bands and solo artists have that unique ability to go and explore things, because you're not so egotistical about your part. My oboe part has to stand out over everybody else's, and I'm going to fight for that being in the mix. You were more about...
Absolutely, and it's a yin or yang, right? So you could go follow your own thing, or you could have somebody that might just help you follow your own thing. By the way, that was a wonderful song that you sent me earlier this week. 6 miles over your head. Oh my gosh! It just goes
I don't know
on
any
and
lyrics or anything. I mean,
yeah.
I have a big 3 or 4 of my computers. I have chunks of Byron stuff from 30 years up till now, and a lot of them are Byron song, I don't know, Byron song something one.
Yeah, I don't know. How
and so I'll just click on them once in a while, and I hear it. I go, "Oh, that's cool." I send it to him, and he goes, "Where'd that come from?"
Yeah, I don't even know how you got it. It was wonderful to hear, though. It was kind of craziness. I
told you, right? The song that I've captioned, "Dunno," but it seems to it's the title song to this whole story. I sent it to Turtle because Turtle, our friend of ours, he's a drummer in the Hooblers. He's just recently bought a Scarlett, 4i4, I believe. So it's got 4 ins, kind of like that. That's a 6i6, but nonetheless, I'm sort of, helping him get his Pro Tools set up. It's not easy, right, for your own setup. And I said, I'm just going to send you a track. So you can just import a stereo track, and then you can create tracks. And he bought a microphone. He's got it hooked in. And you can just come up with shit and sing over it. Said it's a song of Byron, so I sent him that, and he was like, "This is really cool. What is this?" I said, "Byron's got a bunch of these things." I said, "Just sing something on it." I'm anxious to hear what you come up with, Turtle.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
that'd be very cool.
Speaking of, another friend of ours, Scott Patterson, has been sending me now probably about 6 or 7 of his songs for a new album that he's going to do. I mean, what is an album anymore? But we still think of things as a collection of art.
Yeah.
So he sent me 6 or 7, and I think they're really good, and he said, "I wonder," to me, in asking if I'd review these songs, you just give him my input, which is always, "This is great, I love it." He said, "Oh, I wonder if Byron would be interested if I sent him something to collaborate." I said, "I'm sure he would." Yeah, because Byron's always suggesting that to people, send him stuff, he'll dick around with it and send it back. Anyways, it's all part of this thing about solo, band, collaborations. I mean, today's coronavirus environment is opening that up for everybody. And so I'm going to hook up Byron with Scott, and we'll, in a future podcast, see what they can maybe come up with.
Yesterday, just quickly before I guess we end this half hour of not playing the song off European Creep.
Well, one song a week is nice because now we have other things to talk about now that we know each other a little more.
But just, I had a super fun day yesterday. Other than going to visit my mom, make sure she was okay. I went home and I had, of course, I'm doing this song for Emily, which is 90% done, and so I have a video that I have to do for it, and I've been doing a lot of drawings the past couple of weeks, trying to think about how I'm going to present, because this is the way that I put out my music now. I just do songs and make a video and put them out on YouTube. So yesterday I had to seriously start to commit to putting some video down for this, because I'm almost done the song proper as far as the audio is concerned. So I was in my pajamas all day making coffee, and my day would go like this. I would go and work on a certain I'd start at the start of the song and work on a certain section of the song, working with the palette of colors, and put some video down. And then I would spend about an hour. Then I would go to the couch, take a break. I was watching the Beverly Hillbillies all day yesterday.
Lucky
and
you.
For about half an hour, I would just sort of sit and think about think about what I'm going to do on my next section. I had given myself a set of building blocks, artwork that I had done, and I was just trying to think about how I was. Sorry, what?
You know, I love Granny, so I love them all so much, but when I think of the funny parts, it's Mr. Drysdale whenever he thinks the money's leaving the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Yeah. He's excellent, isn't he? Yeah.
No, we can fix it. Anyway, so go ahead.
Well, my mother and I, our salutations are Faversham, which was, if you remember, they went to Britain, and that he thought it was a salutation, so I always go Faversham, Mom. So I'd watch the Beverly Hillbillies for half an hour, trying to think of where I was going to go in my next part of the video. So then I'd go work on the video for an hour, and then finish that. So by the end of the day, I'd almost got most of the video done, and it was wonderful to sort of sit there and just sort of put the building blocks together. Because the thing is trying to get smooth transitions, whether the color palette. Things not coming in too quick and stuff like that. So it was always those things to consider. But it was the greatest time ever. It was the greatest day spent just sort of doing my thing, and I really enjoyed it, and I got the whole video done. And wake up this morning thinking, my God, I got most of my video done already. I just got to think about 20 more seconds worth of it. So that's just sort of how I spend it. It's a wonderful time to spend with oneself.
Yeah, creativity, you know, and more I think about creativity, because, you know, it's a whole series in itself. Where does it come from? But there are different parts of projects, and I know we all work differently. For me, little idiosyncratic ways of working. When I start a project, whatever I'm doing, I always have to have some working name. Like, even if it's Goofiness 1, 2, 3, I just have to have some name to be able to say, oh yeah, that one. And then from there, what are the funnest parts? Coming up with the original creative idea, the initial parts, once you have, like in your case, maybe a song, you know, and then you're going to work on a video part, you know, when you get the very first backgrounds going, or do you like it right at the very end when it's just finished and you go, there it is, and then you put it away?
Well, here's a question for you. When you're putting something together, where do you get your main ideas from? Do you get it from actually sitting in front of the computer with the work in front of you, or do you get most of your ideas away from the computer, thinking about you're going to have to do it at some point, but away from the computer? I get most of my ideas away from my workstation, and then I have to go and implement them. But watching the Beverly Hillbillies just gets me in the right mode just to think about what I need to do next and stuff like that. Do you do most of your ideas sitting in front of your workstation, or do you get most of your ideas like driving in the car and you think,
I think mine are 50-50 because of the advent of the internet. It's allowed me to research things to help stir the creative pot. You know, back in the days, we were around before computers, let alone the internet. And at that point, we were both only doing music, I'm sure. I really wasn't doing any visual stuff back in, well, a little bit with John Cook. But still, it was musical, so I could think about things, and you know, any of us, no matter how bad of a guitar player you are, if you played for 20 years, you know what an A chord sounds like. When you hear someone playing something, you can kind of figure out in your head what they're doing, how they're moving along. But nowadays, I find that, today I work more on video and visual things for clients and stuff than I do musical things. So when I start a project, the beauty is the internet. I can go to Google and I'll just come up with ideas in my head, phrases, and just see what images come across, what kind of websites I hit. And it's just kind of stirring the pot, you know?
Very cool. That's something I do. I like to Google or Bing lyrics, my lyrics, and just see what the hell comes out with it. Yeah, and it just takes you on these crazy roads, especially the images and stuff like that. Yeah, that's one nice sort of thing about using the internet machine. Absolutely, I concur with you.
God, talking to young musicians like my son and his friends that, Spencer was learning to play extremes more than words, you know. It was his first complicated acoustic song he was playing. And the ease in that he just goes onto the Google machine
Yeah.
Teach me how to, and they have Nuno Betancourt going, here are the chords. And I'm thinking, man, when I was 15, if I could go AC/DC, 30 deeds, and then here's Angus Young showing up, I would have skipped so many wrong steps along the way.
So that's an interesting thing. So that's for somebody learning music and stuff like that. So the technology that we used growing up trying to figure out what the chords were on a song was our ears. And you actually had to listen and actually had to figure out the chords.
And friends. Someone who learned the song and you went, how'd you get that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Or friends that knew the chords that were in the song that you were trying to figure out.
Right.
That was a lot harder. I certainly remember many times listening to turning the turntable back and forth, trying to figure out the chords and stuff like that. But I think you get something that you wouldn't get from actually somebody actually showing you the composer, as you said, showing your.
Yeah.
So I wonder, for better or for worse, I wonder how that affects one's sort of brain and. For a future, because if everybody just keeps showing you what you actually have to discover, discovering it actually is a very sort of learned experience in itself.
Right. I mean, I don't think that you or I would go back and do it any differently than the way we did. We see the value in bootstrapping really creatively from no computers. Like, here's a guitar, come up with your universe. You know, and your friend, here's a set of drums.
Right. So back then, your other outlet would. So you used the technology that was available. So actually, the other technology would be going to the music store at Billings Bridge or something like that. That had all the sheet music because they had banks and banks. And of course, the big book back then for me, I remember Christmas, was the big black Beatles Complete that had all the Beatles songs with the guitar chords and stuff like that. So that there was that technology, but my Beatles book, the binder was completely shoved after a few years from opening it up and learning all the chords and stuff like that. But constantly going to the music store back then and looking at the lyrics, stuff like that.
Well, that's the way in the old days people would make money, right? Publishing deals is publishing music, sheet music, all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't exist anymore. Industries that have come and gone because of the technology.
Right. So that's what's interesting about it with the technology today and what kids are learning and how they learn. I just wonder how that affects the music that they make in the future. Or
and it's a common, maybe a misconception that it's a little lazier today because you don't have to. I watched just the other day, probably rewatched, I'm sure I've watched it 100 times, George Harrison giving Ringo Starr a hand with Octopus's Garden on the piano.
Right.
And I went, there you go. Like, people go, oh, George Harrison, he was okay guitar player. But all those guys could play the piano and their other instrument and compose and understand theory enough. That's what I'm saying. Today seems a little more lazy. You know, they don't have to learn guitar and piano to articulate their ideas.
Right. And so, but you're also you don't live in a vacuum. So what do these kids grow up in? So we grew up in a lot of traditional pop songs, the radio that we grew up with, stuff like that. I don't know about kids today, but I'm generally thinking that the kids, the music of the 90s and stuff like that, other than sort of grunge, was a lot of sort of rap stuff with the wearing their pants down to their knees and sort of that. So I don't know how much sort of those traditional music pastiches that you talk about. I don't know that kids are exposed to that sort of stuff on the radio as much these days, and that stuff might just sort of pass them by and all stuff. I don't know what that means.
No, well, that's exactly it. You and I are part of an older generation now, and what did I watch a video yesterday saying that in 2 generations, once you go, no one remembers you. Like you're basically, and again,
unless you're the
doing
Beatles.
this. Well, yeah, I mean, you have to make some significant contribution. Again, life changes, and it'd be very interesting for us to be able to teleport ourselves to, 300 years from now, seeing how people are creating. What do you create? You ever imagine, think of aliens. You know, I think, I can't imagine an alien having a crap. It's got me crazy. I just can't see them sitting on a toilet, like the big gray head. But they have to do it somehow. Same thing with creating music. I mean, can you see an alien sitting around playing a guitar? Do they even listen to music? It's weird, you know. In the future, what will people do for entertainment and creativity?
Very interesting. Very interesting to see what's going to happen to pop. I don't know that there's been as many seismic changes musically in the culture of Western world as there has been in the first part of the century, or the last century.
Will the 20th century be known as the greatest ever because of the advent of the computer, the internet?
It's a good question what it's going to do to creativity and stuff like that. Just sort of a music is a lot more homogenous now. There's a lot less style specific to each region and stuff like that. Everybody's sort of doing the same thing and stuff like that.
That was only gonna happen.
Right, and sort of pop music's been around last maybe 100 years, stuff like that. So, and you know, there's only so many chords, so many things to be said. I think you've probably heard it all. If you haven't heard it all, it's probably just because you haven't heard it. It's still out there. There's like 6 billion people on this planet, and we're just talking about Western music and stuff like that. We're just talking about certain scales in Western music too and stuff like that. I mean, go out east.
Microtonal,
like
yeah, 47 notes.
Crazy stuff I can't even get my head around. Like it's like almost like quantum mechanics. It's like beyond jazz. It's like listening to some of those. Ragas and stuff like that. I remember listening to George Harrison talk with Ravi Shankar and just sort of the time signatures that some of these guys use. Like, I can't get my head around
polyrhythms and stuff. Yeah,
6 miles over my head. Like, it just completely blows my mind and stuff like that. But for some, it's just easy math in their head. It's crazy, eh?
Yeah, it is very crazy. And with that, because I'm sure it's...
Are we done blabbing?
This is great. We fill up the first half with creativity, coronavirus, and where we go from here. Second half, we're going to listen to the next song on the Alien Rabbit number.
Valerie, please clean up your mess. From simple to complicated, more of less and less.
And then you're going to say when I send it to you, you didn't do it.
You should know.
What do you mean you didn't do it?
Because I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, I see.
I'm definitely into the scaling thing, from making it 0 to big and going. But I have to get it from white to black. That's my only thing.
Byron uses Adobe Elements.
Premiere Elements.
That's
my main video editing software.
We're just talking about keyframing and stuff, and I'm not sure what Elements offers because I use in my business.
He's got the full one.
Well, I have to. My business, determines that I have to use the full Adobe suite. So I don't know if it's like Premiere entirely or not. So, anyways, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move back onto the album.
Listen to a song.
The Alien, the Rabbit, the Monkey. I kind of, by setting this up earlier, I know what one's coming up, and just I want to preface this one, even though you don't know which one it is. To me, this was like a song that harkened back to our days, and for me was the original impetus for this whole Freakus Honorarius stuff.
Oh, I'm interested.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
I don't think it's the song that I think it is anyways.
I don't think it is either.
This album just goes on and on, it seems.
We've got a lot to talk about after this.
The stars up above, there's the moon, my love. She likes to rumba, the cucaracha, the bossa nova like evil Kenevil. I'm a lunatic. You might think that I'm strange. I might be a freak of nature, but my black sheep ain't mine. I like the rain better than sun. I like to revel in my misery. I'm a spoiler rap, a conundrum. I am who I am. So what's the smack of your crooked face? Laughing at the world, laughing as the world laughs back at me. Everybody's laughing, just like lines up to the It's in the way I'm psychochromatic. It's in the way that I drive. Willy-nilly, hellbilly bucket. I'm so way out there. And that is where I might be standing. And that is where there is. I don't want to say where you said to, 'cause I don't need to belong. And the brain dead from the church. Everybody's shining. Laughing at the world, laughing as the world laughs back at me. Everybody's laughing, just like lines up to the sea. We're laughing at everybody's up to the
Hey, I enjoyed that.
Oh my God.
That was wonderful. I don't remember a lot of that song, but just listening to it, and especially the chorus is wonderful.
Oh.
Even the start, sorry. Go? Yeah.
No.
I just sort of, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was wonderful. It's got a great chorus, laughing at the world, laughing as the world laughs. That was the stuff I was singing when we were, I remember I had that sort of phrase or line or whatever. That was in the liner notes to the previous album, I think, that I had I thought of. So the song starts off with a bit of classical guitar that John played, and wonderfully, I must say. It's beautiful.
For those of you wondering, Byron's psyche and all, this song for me encapsulates Byron's mind. The way I truly think, again, speaking like you're not here, this is the way you see the world. The lyrics are genius yet silly willy.
Yeah.
But they make perfect sense. My only question, besides all of the genius musicianship and production and everything, this for me might be the pinnacle of the produced songs. I just love the groove. Your Byronic weird ending fit the song perfectly instead of being a total left turn.
Yeah, it really came together well, I think.
But my question is,
one of my highlights.
And there is where there is orangutan. Just not only the way it was produced and it just stopped and can you give me any insight to this? I love, and there is where I might be standing. That's perfect.
No, I don't know what orangutan is doing there, and this is before the president of himself is now an orangutan. And it's the same reaction I had this week when you sent me that song, and I'm listening to it, and I keep talking about a girl named Valerie, and I'm thinking, like, where does Valerie come from? I don't know where a lot of this. I enjoy the horns and the trumpets
the
and
muted horn?
Yeah. That must be Bill Road.
Yes, Bill Roy. Awesome track, Bill.
Yeah, so I think thinking about it now, it's surprisingly that I've completely forgot about the song, but I enjoyed it through listening to it. I think this was going to be like one of the title songs, or it's incredible, but it's so me. It should be toward the start of this album, like it should be like one of the main tracks. This is sort of introducing sort of my thing. I don't know why.
Right,
it's sort
that's
of,
what I was saying. I feel it was the impetus of the whole album.
I don't know what it's doing toward the end when everybody's already gone home. And ask for their money back. But
it's like the carnival barker, saying, "This is my universe. Come on inside."
Well, right. So that was sort of the idea, I think, about just sort of setting this album up. Again, I don't know why it's sort of at the end, but just to get back to the first. There's a little instrumental at the start with John playing classical guitar, which is brilliant. It sounds brilliant. It's got me singing. This was a song about I had written called Evil Kenevil. I had written a song called Evil Kenevil, and it had a similar type of sort of vibe that this does in the chorus. She likes to rumba and stuff like that. I don't know why we put it there, other than it sounds really nice. John's guitar is worth just listening to it right there. Does John? Okay, so John plays tambourine and the rest of
Yeah.
Great, just brilliant tambourine.
Well, I like it.
I'm just kidding, John. So Duncan. So again, why bother putting these credits when they're not making much sense to me? Percussion, Duncan.
So we'll put them up here for you folks to squint along with.
If we do that backwards,
occasional percussion and brushes, Duncan Fotma.
And backwards,
I don't know
how would that backwards read?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. So Bob, thanks.
Sorry, big Fred Gagnon.
Yeah,
he's awesome. Like again, just the sounds and the phrasing. So good. That's like throughout this album. Obviously, Derek Jeffries, brilliant guitar playing in this album. John, awesome opening guitar part, and just that it's such a good groove once you get going. I mean, and the lyrics you don't know, and the stars up above, and the moon, my love.
Yeah, she likes to rumba. She likes to tango.
The bossa nova like.
Yeah. Evil Kenevil. Right, so I don't know about you, but I grew up listening to Evil Kenevil and his exploits on the radio, and there was nothing just sort of more fantastical.
He was the guy, right?
Yeah, he was getting on rockets, going across all those rivers and stuff.
Snake
like that.
River Canyon.
Yeah, till he and he would just
you ever see that thing? It was pointed like straight up. I thought, isn't it supposed to go over there?
Yeah, and he would just have like tremendous amounts of damage done to his body. He was like the guy in Monty Python. It was just a flesh wound.
It's a famous
call
one
it a draw.
where he hits and then he goes over the handlebar. He's just like a rag doll for about 400 yards. Zoinks. Tough way to make a living.
Tough way to make a living.
So what were you writing the Evil Knievel part about? Because the beginning of that has anything to do with Evil Knievel.
Again, it was just more characters that I was just writing for, and I think we just stuck it on just because it sounded so friggin' good, his guitar part and just a bit of vocals. I love that sort of stuff. I love the stuff that you can just sort of play a ukulele and just sort of stroll by the beach and stuff like that, sort of that old-fashioned stuff. That's what it reminds me of.
For those of you wondering as well, I think I've mentioned it before, if you ask me, what's Byron's instrument, I say, he's a bass player. This was classic Byronic bass. That is a Byron bass line there, if I've ever heard it. I think you were playing that back in the bike days.
Yeah, and just sort of listening to this, I sort of get a better feel of probably what if I went out and had played live off this album, I get a better sense of what sort of the band would sound like and stuff like that, especially using sort of those trumpets and stuff like that. There's been other songs and stuff like that. It certainly makes for a more interesting experience, definitely.
I know what you mean, though. For me, because I love it so much, it is... I don't want to say buried in the album because the whole album's great to my ears, but I would have tried to get this out there a little more, because it's funny how other people pick songs from your album they like, you know, and you wonder who's writing this stuff. And
Sure, and I guess that's something we'll talk about in the next show, I guess, when we finish this off, or whatever, what I did or didn't do at the end of this album, and why, and then...
So, and I have a question. What, from the Evil Knievel part into the song proper, there's that kind of rainy stick, guitar-y, weird... What is that?
That's probably sounds like something off the JV 1080, which was the sound. It's probably like... Yeah, probably something. There's always MIDI running off it. There was always a click track, so there was always like extra stuff floating underneath that. I don't think it was a real instrument or anything like that. But I enjoyed that very much. That was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So that is, what did I say it was? Episode 18?
Episode 18.
Episode 18. We're coming close. There's only a couple songs left.
Yeah.
There's the obligatory hidden bonus tracks that we'll discuss when the time comes, because kids, that's what we used to do. With a CD format, you had 650 megs you could fill up, and so an album that would be 45 minutes would usually take you to about about 500 megs or so. So you would basically back end some weird shit and drop it in right at the very end of the CD. If they let the last song play, you'd have about 20 minutes of silence, and then...
Right, and so this is sort of the interesting thing about sort of technology and creating a piece of music. So, sort of the concept, we've talked about this, about what an album is, and an album sort of came about through the LPs and sort of two sides and stuff like that. And sort of these CDs allowed more information, so you could do what you were just saying. And so, for better or for worse, I wondered, listening to this, if I actually had pared this down into sort of I don't know how long this album is. It certainly must be longer than what a regular LP would be, with all the music that was sort of thrown on and stuff like that.
Yeah, without the space, I think you're looking at about 45 minutes.
Sure. So, yeah, I always wonder if you could pare this down or, like, edit it down. It's the Beatles' White Album conversation, eh? Put that double album into a single album, as George Martin wanted.
Well, most people... don't record just the 10 songs they're putting out. They're going to record tons of stuff, tons of demo stuff, discard shit, revisit stuff, and then end up with what's on the album. Do you remember recording many more than you've done here? I mean, they were such huge efforts, each one.
Oh, yes, there's a pile of stuff that never got on that I know I had copies of, and I know that there's a couple things floating out there that I'd love to get my hands on, but John's in another world right now, so he'd be my first guy that I'd like to ask, because I know there's one in particular, actually called John 3:16, that I had done. She was a Botticelli beauty. That was the song I remember. I was with John in the studio, and we spent a whole afternoon. I must have done 100 of my voices in the background. John 3:16, and then I sang it was a nice little piano thing. But yeah, there's a pile more around that never got on this album. But yeah, so there's about 45 minutes, and there's that long thing at the end. I just wonder what it would have been like if it was a bit more.
Right, and just so everybody knows, at the time, John Dewar, the producer of the album, ran the studio, but he also had a record label called Dark Skippy Records. And so this was a release of Dark Skippy. And so at that point, I know that he would have a big say in the pacing of the album, which we used to say pacing, because that's the song orders and the choice of songs that make the album.
So that was always my nom de guerre. Like, somebody had called me Dark Skippy, and I think it was you that if I can just sort of remember, you had said somebody had called me Dark Skippy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, I totally remember. It was the Hooblers, and we had an interview with Kath Thompson at Shea 106.
Right.
And she was asking us questions, and I remember saying, well, my friend Byron Edwards, and she went, oh, Byron Edwards. And she said, Dark Byron. No, you were in the band at the time, and you couldn't make the interview. And we said, one member can't make it, Byron Edwards.
Dark Byron.
Put the big brakes on.
Where did the
Dark
Skippy
Byron.
come? Where does the Skippy?
Well, Skippy is a reference to a guy from my hometown, little town on the St. Lawrence Seaway. And we had a guy that was mentally challenged, and he lived at the hockey rink. I bet you there's a lot of people like this at little towns. And his I think his real name was Skippy, but he would collect the hockey sticks and he would swear a lot, and you couldn't understand him. But he was Skippy, and so everybody, was known as Skippy that was, acting a little crazy. And so we stuck Skippy and Dark together.
Well, it's wonderful, and to this day, it's something that I use on a couple of websites as my username. I'm Dark Skippy. Maybe that's what my new album should be called, Dark Skippy.
I actually have, I think, some of those interviews. I could probably dredge up some interviews from back in the day. I know I have some videotape here I have to digitize and bring onto the show. Anyway, so that is episode 18, okay. And on episode 19 next week, hopefully coronavirus is eased up a bit, and we're going to move on to...
Maybe the president will get it. Sounds like the virus is slowly...
He's Teflon Don. Nothing can. I don't think the virus wants him. They go,
bone spurs.
No thanks.
Bone spurs.
He's probably just drinking disinfectant all the time anyway, so he's impervious to any virus.
He's winning.
I'm gonna go drink some bleach right now.
Okay.
So peace out.
Happy Mother's Day.